Hello, everyone. Welcome to the May 23rd Planning Commission meeting for the City of Mauldin. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Deerhog, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Commissioner Locklear,
Present.
Commissioner Eskridge,
Present.
Commissioner Green,
Present.
and our chairman, Commissioner Paulson.
Present.
And please note that Mr. Bixler had to be excused tonight.
Thank you. Would you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Tonight's meeting will be held to consider the following agenda items. We're going to be looking over and approving the minutes from the April Planning Commission meeting. And we're going to be revisiting the rezoning of 307 East Butler Road. That was that we tabled that in last month's meeting. If you're here for any items not listed on that agenda, we'll not be able to discuss it during the meeting tonight, but you're welcome to come and talk to one of us after the meeting or talk to staff during regular business hours. We're all going to do our best to maintain professionalism and courtesy throughout the meeting tonight. We ask all of y'all to do the same. Please refrain from talking, clapping, or disturbances throughout the meeting. There'll be time provided for members of the public who did not have a chance to speak on this item during last month's meeting or have new thoughts on the matter to speak again tonight. And also please silence all your phones. So we're going to begin with the review and approval of the minutes from last month's Planning Commission meeting, the April meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from April 25th.
I have a motion from Commissioner Locklear to approve the minutes from the April 25th meeting of the Planning Commission meeting. I have a second from Commissioner Eskridge. Any discussion? Hearing no more, I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. The next item on the agenda tonight is the rezoning of 2 acres at 307 East Butler Road. That's a discussion regarding the rezoning from R12 to C1. We're going to begin with an introduction of this item from our staff. After that, we'll ask if any members of the commission have conflicts of interest or ex parte communication regarding this item to disclose. And then at that point, the applicant can be given an opportunity to comment if they need to. Following the applicant's comments, we're going to open the floor to public comment. Members of the public who wish to comment will be granted up to 3 minutes to speak. Now, as I've said before, since we are revisiting this item, if anyone has already stated their opinion in the last meeting and it's on the record, you don't necessarily need to reiterate that. If you've had new thoughts on the matter, or if someone is here who didn't have a chance to speak, by all means. Speakers cannot concede their time to other speakers. And if you agree with the previous speakers, it would be best if you just said, I agree with what they said. We're going to try our best to keep things moving in a timely manner. After each person has had its opportunity to speak, we're going to close the floor, give the applicant a chance to answer any questions, and then receive the recommendation from staff. Mr. Deerhog, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I introduced this last month, so I'm not going to say everything again that I did last month. Just a reminder, this is a request to rezone this property at 307 East Butler for light commercial, and they're The applicant's planning to develop an indoor facilities gymnasium for badminton, that could also be used for pickleball. The update I have for you tonight is, of course, at the last meeting, this item was tabled for the purpose of receiving some more information, particularly as it relates to the design of the stormwater management system and the provision of a fence. Since that meeting, the applicant has submitted a revised conceptual model, plan for this property. This is the old plan I'm showing on the screen right now. This would be the new plan. That would be their conceptual plan. It does incorporate a 6-foot tall privacy fence in the midst of the buffer on both sides of the project. And the parking lot's been totally reconfigured to accommodate the buffer. And the detention will be underground detention for this project. That's the update that I have for you tonight. I'm glad to answer any questions later on if you have any.
Thank you. Before I continue, I need to ask the members of the commission, does anyone have a conflict of interest or ex parte communication to disclose regarding this item? Very good. Does the applicant wish to add any comments at this time? Okay. So at this time, I'll open the floor to any public comments about this item. We didn't have a sign-up sheet, but when you come up to the lectern, please give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to provide your comment.
And I'll have a timer, so if you hear dinging, that's what it is.
You heard from me last time, Brenda Thompson, 113 Summerwoods Drive, Mauldin. I'm going to be very quick on this, and I've gone over your notes. First, let me correct you. I was misquoted, or shall we say incompletely quoted in your notes as far as the past meeting. I did not express concern over bringing people into Mauldin from outside the community. What I expressed concern over was bringing people from outside the community who were not going to be looking at living here, paying taxes here, or spending their money here other than at a pickleball facility, which would get the benefit of that. The county or city of Mauldin would not get any benefit from that. Furthermore, I think all this hearing and everything is, shall we say, succinctly illegal because notice was not given to everyone prior to the hearings beginning of the intent. There's over 50 homes that were not notified, and they are within 200 feet, as stated by the people planning this. They are within 200 feet of this plan. I've talked to all 50, and I promise you, they did not receive a notice. Now, that in itself is wrong. It's like doing things undercover. They verbally indicated that this is not for neighborhood use. You claim that changing this to a C1 would provide goods and services at a neighborhood scale. Goods and services for whom? Also, they plan less than the acquired or required parking spaces. 48 to 60 parking spaces would be required. Looking at the drawing up there, I don't think there's 48, nor is there 60. That's based on the size of the building. The general character of the area, as you state, is supposed to be, anything done is supposed to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. The general character will be changed. It will no longer be a neighborhood, which is a district, especially one forming a community within a town or city. Neither is it a community. It's a community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. The people using that facility might have a particular characteristic in common, but the people living around it won't. I also have brought some pictures with me tonight. It'll show you what happens when there's a storm like we had 2 weeks ago. I'd like for y'all to look at these. There's nothing illegal or saying about all the trouble they can help the runoff. That property stands 5 foot in height above the middle of Summer Woods Drive. I was standing out in Summer Woods this afternoon and could look straight through at the roots of trees. We had multiple trees that came down, homes that were damaged because of this. It's going to be even worse when you put a facility like this in there. When you take out the undergrowth and the trees that are already there, you're going to disturb the underground, and that wash off there is going to be triple that. That's off my patio. I don't think I need to say anything more because you can tell I'm not happy.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will be running for city council next time. I hope all of you, including you, Mr. Paulson, will vote for me because I don't think you need to be holding a biased position.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Jeff Moore. I live in 130 Brook Bend Road in the Holly Springs subdivision. I live basically at the bottom of the storm drains. Water that goes anywhere is going to end up in my backyard. I have pictures on my phone. I didn't think to print them, but I don't know that underground drainage would be taking it, I guess, to a creek or to a little ditch that would funnel it to Gilder Creek, right above the Van store there, I would assume, and drop it into the creek there. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that the underground storm drains would be running there instead of having a retention pond?
Right now, you're providing comment. The questions will be answered when the floor is closed.
Okay,
So we've noted your question.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. But at any rate, this last storm was not that drastic. 10 years ago in July 2013, we had a very large storm and flooding occurred greatly across Butler Road. And I was not here at the time of this last storm, and I don't know if it broached Butler Road or not. But 10 years ago in 2013, all of the stormwater in Mauldin, from Gilder Creek, all the tributaries and everything, Butler Road was underwater right there at the Van store. We had to shut down Butler Road. We shut down Bridges Road or Corn Road there at the high school. Nobody could get through. If there had been any emergencies, we would have had some severe, damage, loss of life possibly, or anything if we'd had some emergencies. But at any rate, my comments would be related to ensuring that we have enough stormwater control, drainage, whatever. And I do not believe that funneling it underground, as I'm hearing, would lead it to a creek. It needs to be an above ground pool of some kind that would handle the stormwater runoff. That would be additional to all of the trees being removed, the pavement that's going in for the parking lot, the runoff from the road, and that would be as a result of that is just going to increase the force of the water that goes down through there. And I have a picture that I would like to show, but obviously I can't. This last storm, like I said, was not that drastic, but it was a bad storm. But I have to say that water is a very powerful component that we don't really realize how large it is. In my yard, there's the sewer line runs across the road. And right now on that sewer pipe that goes across the creek, it's a 10-inch sewer drain. Got flanges on either side. Right now, sitting on that creek, sitting on that pipe, is about a 30-foot tall tree. And the base of that tree, the stump of that tree is sitting on that pipe waiting for being removed. That's how powerful water is And if we have any way, we need to be sure we can control it before it gets to be carrying large items down. Sooner or later, that pipe is gonna break and we're gonna have a sewer break. in that line.
Thank you.
My name is Maria Johnston. I live at 301 Summerwoods Drive. And I'm here because I'm concerned about my investment. I've been a Mauldin taxpayer for 22 years, and a homeowner for 22 years. And the reason I bought that place is because of the woods behind it and the quiet and the wildlife. And I hate to see that go. And I'm concerned about my property value going down because the condo next to me is up for sale. And they're using those woods as a major selling point, which is why it's listed for what it's listed at. So I have concerns about those two issues, my quality of life and my property values. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
My name is Tom Newton. I'm the president of the HOA at Summerwoods Condos. I spoke last time, but I wanted to, I agree with, I was going to bring up the two previous talking points. I want to find out, my first question is, what kind of study's been done about cutting down all the trees? That's going to create a big runoff. As the other gentleman said, we just had a flood. I also have pictures on my phone where it not only flooded the back part of Summerwoods, it flooded the houses across the street. I think it might be Libby Lane or something like that. But anyway, it's gradually washing away the dirt every time we have a large rain. This was a larger one, but every time we have a rain, we have trees that are right beside the creek that are in their backyards and our backyards. I just would like to hear what kind of study's been done on this property, putting in this parking lot, the retention going into that creek and all the water washing down from taking out all these trees and everything that's holding everything back now. If you do away with that, it's going to just, we'll have a big problem. I would like to find out what kind of study's been done on that. And then the other thing was I was also going to speak on our property values. I spoke to real estate agents and they've told me that, yes, this is going to lower our property values. I just don't, of course we don't like that. But I just think it's the wrong kind of business for this. I know y'all want to have commercial properties on Butler Road. I get it, and everything, but this is actually two pieces of property. It's not one piece. There's one closer to the road. It's about the same size as Joy Real Estate there. And then the woods behind it, going all the way to the creek, is the other piece of property. And I just wish it was, the one close to the road, but it's just such a big warehouse and parking lot going. It's like you're trying to shoehorn this large business into this narrow piece of land and cut down all the trees. And I just think it's going to, be a big problem as far as the environment, rain and the creek and flooding and our property values. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment? I'll close the floor to public comment in a moment. Thank you.
Hoffman. I live at 420 East Butler Road. And my overview of this is we need to preserve our green residential spaces. And it does seem unnecessary. The city of Greenville is modifying their codes as we speak. And they're trying to rail this in after they've let it go for a long time. I'd like to see Mauldin step out in front of that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing no more comments, The floor is now closed. Does the applicant wish to provide any comments?
I just wanted to address a couple of the issues that were brought up. As far as the neighbors being notified, I got that list directly from David and he printed that off exactly to the neighbors that were within, is it 200 feet? So I followed his protocol on that. As far as the floodplain drainage is concerned, Greenville County has a 10-year floodplain requirement. I know when we
100.
met, pardon me, 50,
100.
no, Greenville County,
Oh.
Greenville, the city of Greenville has a 10-year. And I know when we met with the site planner to do this, you know, he indicated that Mauldin had the 100-year floodplain, which meant that we had to, you know, allow more space for that. And we had to take that into consideration and it took up more property. And so the underground detention is the best option here. And it will allow the rain to be collected in these huge, wish I had a picture of it, drain pipes underneath the parking lot, which will flow down. And then, of course, it will not affect the floodplain at all as far as the development and the water will flow backwards. It's my understanding that the DOT in the new Build a Better Butler project for the road work has some storm drainage parts built into this. I can't speak specifically to that, but I do know that it is in the works for that. And so, I would like just to add that this piece of property is for sale. It's gonna be sold to somebody. It's probably not gonna be sold to an individual person that's gonna live on this property because that whole corridor is being developed into a commercial type atmosphere. And this is probably gonna be one of the better businesses that could go on this property if it's going to be sold because it's going to be recreation. It's not going to cause a lot of issues as far as people coming and going. And I think you just have to look at it from that standpoint as well. And as far as drainage and SCOTT and all that, you guys have put forth the requirements as far as the 100-year floodplain and stuff. And I can't speak to what that looks like. But I can say that you guys have the protocols in place that people like my client are following to build this building there. And anybody else that would build on this property would follow the same protocols. They would have to meet the requirements of Mauldin. So whether we build on this property or somebody else, all these same issues would be brought up regardless of who is there. Unless, like I said, maybe you built a single family home there, but I don't see anybody building a single family home on this property. Like I said, because of where it is and the whole street is being developed into a commercial corridor. And that's all I have. Thank you.
This is just one moment. Do any members of the commission have any questions for the applicant? I didn't actually write her name down.
Lisa.
Lisa Williams.
Ms. Williams, refresh my memory. You had mentioned that the facility at the pavilion had more membership than number of days. What's the current membership?
You come speak in the microphone so they can hear it online.
They have around 140 people, active people playing there.
And I just have a comment because it's been brought up about the floodplain. And I don't want to get teary about it. But it was my house that was on the news on July the 8th, 2013. My husband and I escaped the flood. So I'm empathetic to the flood concerns. I had to walk through flood waters up to my shoulders, stuff floating through the water, including rats and snakes and utility building. So it's not that I'm not empathetic, but it sounds like these people have done everything that they can do to satisfy that situation, and the floodplain is not their fault. And as Ms. Williams pointed out, even if we leave it residential 12, R12 and someone wanted to build on there, you would still have the same issues. And that's just what I want to say. And I do have pictures if anybody would like to see them. They're on my phone.
Thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant? Thanks. Mr. Deere. Let me just go ahead and get Mr. Deerhog's staff recommendation, and then we'll have further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's no change to our recommendation from the last meeting. We do find it consistent with the land use map provided in the city's comprehensive plan and the impacts of the proposed indoor badminton. And if it becomes a pickleball club will be relatively minor and benefit the community by providing more recreational opportunities. That sums up our report.
Thank you. Do members of the commission have any questions for staff?
This isn't really a question, but maybe ask Mr. Deerhog to give an explanation of how underground detention is less impactful on this site than if it was detention or retention.
Yeah, the underground detention has a few benefits to it. One is that it means that you're not having to strip away more trees to put a surface pond in that would collect the water. Instead, it'll all be collected underground in areas that are already being cleared. So that means that there essentially is less land disturbance. And by having the stormwater be channeled underground through pipes, it doesn't result in erosion issues that sometimes you see with stormwater runoff where it runs off overground. So there's a couple advantages like that relating to underground detention. It's much more expensive to do. That's why you don't see it too often. But what works great in a site like this is most of the stormwater is generated from the impervious surface or the asphalt in this case where their parking area is. And so as the stormwater collects in the asphalt or hits the asphalt, it's immediately channeled to these underground pipes and is handled much better.
Are we in discussion mode?
We are in discussion. If you have any questions for staff,
We're in
please go ahead.
discussion mode. Yeah. From a standpoint of the concept, I have no problem with the concept and what the applicant is trying to do with this facility. In my mind, I can't think that there might not be a better location where it would fit in much better without the having to rezone this. Because once you rezone, whether they decide to move, they grow and move, or they close up and move, somebody else is going to come in there and you're going to have the new zoning at that point in effect. So while I don't disagree with the concept, I disagree with rezoning the actual property. I don't agree with that.
So it's worth noting, as these plans are all very helpful, but the question before the commission tonight is taking a existing zoning, which is residential, and turning it into a C1, which is light commercial. Just to back up what Commissioner Eskridge was talking about. And that does include several dozen potential uses, all of them fairly, I guess, the term light is what I would use. Not large, libraries, professional services, small stores. So yes, those would be potentially occupants of that of that property. Additional discussion or questions for staff? We're talking about, and we're trying to address some of the questions that were brought up. Was there any concern about public notices beforehand?
That only pertains to the neighborhood meeting. The applicant was given the list, actually labels to use for the letters they sent. And that's all checked with GIS. So they would have been given a complete list of the properties that are within 200 feet and sent those out for their neighborhood meeting. The notice requirement for this meeting is not involved that. The notice requirement for this meeting is property.
Mr. Durhog, just question related to parking. Can you discuss that? What are the required number of spaces?
Yeah, so there's not an exact match in the city's zoning ordinance as pertains to the spaces that would be required for this particular use. Generally, probably what we will end up doing in this case is incorporating a separate study to determine the number of parking spaces that are based on comparable facilities in other communities.
Additional discussion? Questions for staff? Do I hear a motion regarding this item? We have a motion to recommend to council that we approve the rezone from R12 to C1. No, that's fine. From Commissioner Green.
I second.
I have a second from Commissioner Locklear. This time I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
So that's 3-1 in favor of recommending rezoning.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just for the information of those who are attending. So this will go to City Council at their next regular business meeting, which will be in June, on June 19th at 7 p.m. So June 19th, 7 p.m. This will be brought up for City Council.
They will make the decision. That was why I opened the floor to public comment earlier. That was how I meant to run the meeting. Tell you what, please come up to the lectern. We're trying to make everything a matter of public record. And we're trying to keep the meeting organized and not turn into a, well, so we've already actually approved the motion, so.
Maybe you might suggest, Mr. Chairman, if there's some questions we can answer afterwards, we'll try to do that.
We are absolutely available after the meeting. Yes, ma'am.
It's listed as an
Just a second, everybody, please. We would love to have a discussion regarding these items. But the fact of the matter is we've all decided that we're going to recommend to council that they rezone this particular site. Now, these questions are more than welcome after the meeting. But we've kind of already moved on this. Is there any other business to discuss tonight? Very good. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
What?
Go ahead, Randy.
The folks, they're welcome to pose these questions on June 19th. Is that correct? At council meeting?
Yes, that's correct.
Absolutely. There's going to be,
I didn't mean to interrupt, pardon me.
please, it's all good.
There'll be a sign-up sheet at the door you would sign up on.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming tonight and your comments. I appreciate it.